Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser. It's Friday, so Kermit's back. It's good to be green. Michael has the coffee as well. Alex is in the car. Do you have like your Red Bull, your vintage energy drink in the car?
No, iced tea this morning.
Iced tea this morning. Okay. But by the way, what is the Philly special back there, Michael? I just noticed that.
Yeah, Philly special. That was the trick play they ran in the Super Bowl back in 2018 when they
Oh,
beat the
really?
Patriots.
Okay. I
Yeah,
was like, what is that? That looks cool. Okay. So
yeah,
let's obviously Alex is here in the car as always in his regular location, and Michael has moved into an office now. So we have Michael right
yeah.
before work, and Alan is with us in Houston, probably freaking 65 degrees. So let's get to all the freaking news. There's a lot to talk about this morning, actually, as we head into what I consider like a really big weekend that will shape kind of like the rest of the season in my eyes, at least. But we'll talk about that. So first off, let's talk about this one here. Club confirms that season is over for Ramsey. We kind of barely knew you, and we don't even know to be. I was kind of excited going into the season, not because of I don't know. I don't buy into these YouTube videos and stuff like that, but we really, getting a backup that's like actually like a right back, maybe some of the things that Trent can do and stuff. What does this injury mean, Michael? Because it's just, is it for a young player? Is it a concern that they were injured, they were almost out of it, they had a setback, they were out of it, and then they get injured again? He is young, but is it still a concern that for the long run?
Yeah, I think it's probably too early to definitively say. It clearly falls in the category of highly unfortunate. Both for him and for the club. I think the idea of bringing him in is clearly never manifested itself. In fact, somebody had posted or commented the other day something about a rough start to his Liverpool career, and I was like, well, actually, technically, he hasn't really even started yet, so it's not a rough start. Hopefully, his start is delayed clearly, but I wouldn't necessarily be concerned. I do think it's interesting the whole progression here for him, aside from injury, that it's still such an unknown. We just don't know what he may bring, what he will bring, short, long term, and the injuries, of course, have delayed any understanding of what he can bring at this point. I do like YouTube videos. I think you can get little pieces and glimpses here and there, but it's certainly unfortunate. I wouldn't write him off. I wouldn't write him off yet.
Yeah, the thing about those YouTube videos, like I said, I can whip up one of mine that would make me pretty darn good, but I'm no Ramsey. And that's why, like you're seeing the best. It's like the social media of soccer players where you're
Right.
seeing the best of everybody, but there's more to it than that kind of a deal to
Right.
me. But
For
Alex,
sure.
what do you think? I mean, is it too early to be worried? He is freaking young as can be.
Yeah, I with the price that we paid for him and how young he is, I don't know if we can be worried yet. The the biggest thing I thought he would probably be loaned out because I just don't see him. I just didn't see him probably this year playing over Trent or even Joe Gomez because I think Joe Gomez, I think his best position um, is right back right now. I mean, he's struggled in the center back role, but I think he plays really well at right back. So I can't see him at any time he would play over Joe Gomez. But I think because it's the same injury that he struggled with at the latter part of the season and into his Liverpool career. So I think it was one of those injuries he just couldn't work away. He needed surgery. So I guess it was just one of those unfortunate things. Like Michael said, it just happened. So
And sometimes with younger players, it's kind of hard to know too. I think it's a bit easier for a younger player to come back because not familiar with his body himself. I think like a more mature player, older player will know when there's something wrong or that they're like, I don't want to mess with this. I mean, I know at this age, as I run, if I feel something, I'm like, yeah, time to stop. Otherwise, this is going to go downhill fast. So, Michael, you're a runner. I'm sure you can relate, right? I mean, sometimes having a younger body and not knowing yourself not knowing your body can be a
Right.
factor in coming back early.
Yeah, and that of course, and he's young, he's new to the club. He wants to push through some, some pain. Oh, it's just some minor pain. I really got to show the coaches and the team that I'm here for a reason. So, I could see that, and then the additional drive and push. Whereas, you and I know, you know what, I'll take today off. And he lives in a vocation where he can't just say, you know what, I'm not going to run today, or I'm not going to train today, and worried about what those ramifications may be.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more difficult for a player
Right.
like that. I think if Van Dijk said, you know what, this is not feeling right, I'm going to sit today. He's
Exactly.
not worried about starting and all, like losing his spot and all that
Right.
kind of stuff. So I think
Right.
that's fair. Well, Spot talking about, I did not have this in mind, but I saw this headline because it was part of his press conference when he was asked about Carvalho. Kind of like talked about not what we needed currently, and he's working. It's not like from him, he's just gonna keep working kind of a deal, but it sounded like he's not in the plans anytime soon. Alex, let's start with you on this one. Does that mean we're not gonna see much of Carvalho for the rest of the season, especially since A, we're out of like the local cups, and B, we got guys coming back like Jota, Bobby, and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for him to be playing one of those winger positions. If there's anything, maybe he plays a false number 9 when Bobby's not playing there, but it's going to be hard for him to be over anybody, and especially with Harvey playing. And then I just don't think he's ready for that midfield move yet. I just don't think he's there or has the experience to play there yet. I think probably a loan move next year would suit him nicely. Maybe trying to play that midfield role, or maybe just kind of like expand what his arsenal for Klopp in the future. But I think probably some kind of loan move next year will probably do him a lot of good, especially if he gets a lot of playing time.
That's interesting. I mean, I know when we signed him in the beginning of the season, Michael, and I know, when we signed him and Nunez at the same time, everything looked on paper like, oh, this looks like to be a great 4-2-3-1 setup moving forward, and he would be that center one in the middle. And A, I mean, we never did that. And B, when he did play, I felt like, we always played him out of position for the most part. He was on the wing, which I don't think he's a winger, like a true winger, like the winger that we want to use. But having said that, when he played in the middle a few times where we were hoping he would be Bobby's long-term replacement, it felt to me like he did not have that strength. And when he was in midfield, let's face it, he kind of lost out to Elliott. Even in the shortage of midfielders, he couldn't cement a place. Alex says maybe a loan move next year. I personally think it's still too early to know if he can find a spot or not. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. With Carvalho, I think that he's unfortunately paid the price for the team's overall underperformance.
Sure.
And I think when he was brought in, my guess would be the vision would be there'd be many, many games where Liverpool was in control in the 60th or the 70th minute, up 2-0, holding the ball. And this is the time to get him in there, get his feet wet, get a little acclimated with the style of play, with the surrounding players. And because we've been so inconsistent and so, frankly, so bad this year, at times, I don't think Klopp has risked him in those moments. So I think for him, what it looks like the rest of this year, maybe a cameo with 20 minutes left at Anfield when hopefully we're up 2-0 on West Ham, and you throw him out there, put him on the wing, put him in the middle, just get him some minutes, because I don't think you're going to foster him this year. The looking up the table instead of looking down the table, I think that's why he's where he's at. And it's unfortunate. And I think what may happen with him, similar to like a Harry Wilson type, where just always kind of on the fringe at a place like Liverpool, but could be a really, really key player for a smaller club. And it's weird to say because there's smaller clubs that are up the table, from Liverpool right now. But in general, I think that I think he's still a very, very good talent. And it's just unfortunate. Again, I use the word unfortunate. The whole season's been unfortunate. It's unfortunate for him that other players have not played up to their potential this year, and it's cost him, I think, minutes and opportunity.
But okay, so if we played our regular game, I understand he would like get minutes, but if you project him to be, I mean, you bought him to be, I'm assuming more of a starter down the road, like to replace some of these guys. What is the role that you see for him?
Yeah, he seems to me to be best when he's able to turn in the midfield with space and the ball at his feet. He's not the kind on the wing that likes to run in behind defense, and behind the back line and hit those channels. He's comfortable with the ball at his feet, head up, slide a pass in, or take a look at, beat one person and take a look at goal. And that's that's a role I think that he could play. Will he be, if Liverpool wants to be one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 clubs in the world, is he the starting player in that first 11? I don't know that he is. I think he's more that second player in that type of a position, when you're playing, lower table, teams in the bottom half of the table. And again, I think for him, it comes back to the club had been first or second in the Premier League table for 5 years running. So here's the plan with Carvalho.
Yeah.
And now we've been, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. So the plan changed.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Like, it's probably not fair on the kids to evaluate his performances, because we can look at probably a lot of players right now. And you said evaluate his performances for the year. Not a lot of people are getting passing grades over here. So
exactly,
he's in the tough situation of, he's a freshman, if you will. So he's trying to earn a spot at the same time in a semi shit show. It's just that, you saw Elliott's kind of, and now Bajcetic kind of used that mess to kind of carve out a little space for themselves. Yep. And Carvalho was not able to. Maybe he's not suitable for that or not. But yeah, Alex is already packing him away. Really? So you're not going to give this kid another offseason, man?
I mean, because I mean, realistically, if Liverpool is, if Liverpool has all their players, their forwards healthy, most likely he's probably not going to get any playing time. And I would like to see him get some playing time. Obviously, I mean, now thinking back at it, he scored some pretty big goals this season. Newcastle, and then he scored in the League Cup against City. I totally forgot about that goal, and I think he scored in the Champions League. So I think he's there, but I think he just needs a little bit more experience, if you know what I mean. He had the experience when he played at Fulham. That was a championship, but I think he needs maybe some more experience, maybe possibly at a smaller club, kind of that's in the first division somewhere, and he plays there and kind of gets his, like I said, he kind of finds his groove, and I think that will do wonders for him when he comes back to Liverpool, because I think he's understanding the whole how Liverpool plays to a degree, but the fact that he doesn't get any playing time is a concern for me.
And he's like a young kid. I mean, part of the deal, I thought, when he was trying to play Bobby's role, is he doesn't have Bobby's a strong dude for his size. You don't see it when you just look at him, he's not like your big 9 like Mitrovic or something like that, but he's a strong dude, so he can do hold up play as well as being able to turn around. I think, Michael, you're right. He can do the turnaround, and when he faces you, he can come at you pretty good, but I don't think he can hold you off if his back is to the goal. Right. And that's kind of that strength is something that he might gain over time too. I mean, when Trent came into the league, you could sneeze next to him, it looked like he would just fly away. But he's gotten a lot stronger over the years as well. Right. So talking about being in the groove and on a roll. So City wins on Wednesday. That was the big game this week, aside from obviously the Champions League games, which yesterday's, especially the Barcelona game. I never had a game where both teams were bitching about the ref at the end and thought they got robbed, but it was definitely entertaining to watch as an outsider / somebody rooting against United at the same time, because I think they got robbed and Barcelona got robbed. But anyway, we'll go back to that. So City, we were talking about this on the Wednesday morning show. Michael, does this mean that Arsenal is pretty much, because even watching the game, you could kind of tell that Arsenal was a lot more tense, even though City is the one probably who could not afford to lose the game. But you felt and you could kind of see that Arsenal was the more tense one. And they do make, and eventually they do make a mistake, concede the goal and stuff like that. And it turned out to be, I mean, I view that as more of a comfortable. I thought the penalty was kind of like a goofy penalty that Arsenal got and stuff. But what does that mean for the title run at this point? Is it basically City's to lose?
Yeah, I think unfortunately it is, and I think I might be in the minority where if it's not going to be Liverpool winning this year, I would love to have seen Arsenal win, mainly because I like the style they play. The fluidity at Arsenal, I enjoy watching. I like the fact that they've given young guys a chance. They've done some things in the transfer market as of late, but in general, they gave youngsters a chance and kind of took their lumps with the youngsters. But City's so good that the only reason City doesn't win is because of City in 99 out of 100 games. And there's not many teams that can go toe to toe with them. And as you watch some of that game, I did watch a little bit of the second half here while I was working, and
we'll edit this out so that the bosses don't see it.
yeah. I think that even though City were second place in the table, it was not a surprise to me that they looked the more confident team. They looked the more comfortable team. They've been at that level for 6-7 years, in a row. So it's not surprising. And then I think if Arsenal had not lost to Everton and had not just drawn with Brentford, I think that game, I don't say it would have been different, but definitely could have been different. So I think that had more of an impact to Arsenal coming in and looking a little bit unsure because they had dropped 5 out of 6 points. And now this game means so much more than it would have when you talked about it a week ago. So I think that had more of an influence. And then I also think that in those frantic moments, I think the Arteta intensity and, all the motions and all that kind of stuff, I think it has a negative effect on a predominantly young team because they see him panic and then they start to panic. So, credit to City. They went into Arsenal, they had their tails up. They were ready to rock and roll, and they got a very deserved result on the day.
Yeah, I agree. Those 2 games, it was more like looking at the rear mirror, like, oh shit, what is that coming over? And like City closing rapidly. It's more of a panic because, like I say, when you watch the game, you could sense which team was a lot more calmer. And I kind of agree. Like when I see, you see Arsenal coming out, you're like, oh, this is not a bad team to, root for to win the title, out of the City. And then Arteta comes out after the team, and you're like, oh, I don't know, this feels so dirty. So like totally he cancels out the rest of the team because like there's a lot of guys, even in rival teams that are sometimes players that are just playing hard to hate, like I find Rashford like one of those guys. I think Arsenal actually has, like 2-3 of those guys, like Saka and stuff. But they're like a bunch of players that are like, he's a good kid, he's a good dude, kind of a deal. And even though wish he was wearing our jersey, kind of an old deal. But where do you stand on this thing, Alex? First of all, who are you rooting for to take it? And then are they gonna take it?
Well, I mean, I probably am also in the minority. I want Arsenal, but also at the same time,
you guys realize you guys are in the majority, right?
I wouldn't mind Arsenal losing the league just so Liverpool can't be the one that lost the league when they had the league. Okay, right. I would love for that to happen. That's the only reason why I would want City to win it. But I mean, like I was telling you before Michael got on, I saw the result and I saw who scored and I saw De Bruyne swagger as he was leaving the field and the people were throwing bottles at him. I kind of felt like City was going to take it. Like they found their groove. And I think that was the biggest thing with City there's been some times when they just haven't found their groove, and I think they found it in that game. So I think City's going to take it. For Arsenal, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow because now they'll realize how easy it is to lose a lead like that over, who's in second place. So maybe that'll put a fire in their belly. Who knows? But Arsenal has some things to work on going into this weekend. And who do they play? I don't even know who they play.
This weekend?
Yeah.
Let's look it up for you here. Ask Uncle Google. They are playing at Villa. Crack of dawn on Saturday. Well, crack of dawn for us. Early game in England. That's the first game, and that's another thing. That's the first game, and then City is going to Forest, and the tough place to play. But that's the thing. Like that's the thing with City. I feel like you always have they're gonna pull this out one way or another. We were talking about this. I think Gordon was talking about it on Wednesday. This year, not so much. You don't have that confidence that once they score one, it's going to go to 3-4, or if they're down, or they're going to come back anyway. Not as much this year in the past years, but you can kind of tell they have the confidence that they are not doubting themselves. Whereas I watched some stuff online, and you can already see Arsenal go into panic mode, Michael, just because, well, first, they're Arsenal. And two, in 3 weeks, you're like, they were like on top of the world. They're cruising. Yep. Let's just be careful and comfortable here. And they're like, what the fuck? Before you know it, they're like second. So I feel like there is some kind of like a panic mode where City will start running away with this now is the feeling I'm getting.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the other thing for, a club like Arsenal right now, Liverpool's learned this the hard way the last few years to compete with City. City, when rolling, is so consistent. They've earned so many points over the last 5-6 years that, historical title races, if you had a little slip up mid-season, a little bump, 2, 3, 4 games or something like that, it didn't disqualify you from, you're out of it. Because you figure someone else would have a 2 or 3 game skid. And, with the league being decided by 95 plus points, per season the last 5 years, those 3 game skids, you are done. Because City's going to stumble once, maybe twice before the end of the year. City's not going to drop 8 out of 9 points in the span of 8 days, like Arsenal just did. Yes. And that's the lesson. That's the pill that Arsenal has to swallow. If you want to challenge for a Premier League title in today's day, you need to have that consistency, which they had the first part of the season. So my argument pro Arsenal was, guys, they're at 50 points at the midway point of the season, which is pretty incredible. But you can't, you've got to keep that level. So if they wanted to win, I would think they would need to finish on 95 points, and they just gave up 8 points in 10 days, 8 days. So they're learning that's a tough thing. And then the other thing is, because they've not been there before, because they're self-doubt, now the question is, do they have the mettle to recover? They didn't recover well. Losing at Everton, you're going to have a blip, and Brentford's not easy, but you're back at home and you're a title challenging side. And to their, defense, the Brentford goal should have been disallowed, but we've all had those moments in a title challenging season. So I don't know that they'll recover. I don't know as I'll go so far as to say they'll drop out of the top 4. I still think they stay in the top 4 unless they have just a catastrophic decline.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. I mean, if you think about it, they have a game in hand still. So even though they're tied in points and they're second, they do have a game in hand. It's just a matter of, you look at the situation and it feels like, they either peaked early, or you can kind of see the panic button has been pressed. And, you talk to players about like these title challenges and how it can really beat you down. And perhaps, like you're saying, they're not well equipped to be able to handle that. Not to mention, there's another big threat now. Liverpool, with a game in hand, is only 19 points behind. So
that's right. That's right. And on a run, no less.
Yes,
on a run.
On a streak. The streak has begun. So let's see. I mean, obviously, all joking aside, like that win, and maybe like I think more than the win, the way the win came, and I think the people coming back kind of like opens up a door of hope. At least you can kind of like peek in to see who's inside. So that makes this weekend's game huge. I don't know if a draw is the end of the road, but Alex feels like if we lose this one, that kind of, I know there's a lot of games to go, but it really puts the top four in really, really back further dreams here.
Yeah, I mean I think we're 9 points behind Newcastle. So if we get a win, that's huge. So that's really huge if we get a win.
Yeah, 9 points with a game in hands.
Yeah, and I predict it's probably going to end 2-1 for Liverpool this weekend. But, I mean, they don't have Callum Wilson, so that kind of makes me, like, reassured with the 2-1 victory. But they also have Alexander Isak, and he scored on his debut the last time he played for Liverpool or against Liverpool. So, I mean, I think there was an interesting prediction is one of my friends said it might go 0-0 into halftime with how long it takes Liverpool to get into the game and Newcastle's defense. It might be 0-0. I think it might be a 1-0 win. There could be goals in the second half. So I'm hoping for a win.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where, I mean, it's a team that does not concede goals, and that's probably what scares me the most. They've only conceded 13 goals. Ellen says, Wilson, the Cato of Everton. So here's the thing. Like, that's my concern. We kind of like struggling to get goals, Michael, and we're playing against a team that has conceded 13 goals in 22 games, which is pretty darn impressive, really.
Right.
That's what scares me. Are we able to get something going with? Because I don't even know if the last game, I mean, we scored on 2 counters ultimately. I don't know if you can say, oh, they're back.
Well, I mean, they fooled us a couple times already this season, right? The first time we were back was the Bournemouth 9-0. And we've been back several times since then. So, I don't want to have false hope. There's a couple things I take away from the derby that do feel good. And one of those, a key one, was that Mo Salah looked like Mo Salah for the first time in a long, long time. I mean, I think he should have been sat 3-4 games ago. He just was, not only was he not helping, it seemed, it was almost hurting because it was a little black hole out there on the right. The ball would go in there and then we'd lose it. So I thought that was great. I thought Nunez was electric. The only thing missing from him was the goal. And then for someone like Gakpo coming in and finally getting a goal, even though it's a tap in, even though Connor Cody somehow mysteriously let the ball fall to him to tap in, we'll still take it. So there are some positives, and I think almost, again, clean sheets are always positive, but Everton has no attack. So that's, I think, where the difference coming into Saturday is. You have a Newcastle team that has a couple people, even though Wilson's out. Almiron has scored a number of goals this year. Joelinton, is he available? Yeah, he's available for selection, I think. And he's a troublesome player. He's not Erling Haaland, but he's a troublesome player. So and then Newcastle at home, whether they've at 4th in the table or 18th in the table, Newcastle at St. James Park is always a tough match. And you look at Liverpool going there many times over the years where the team, Liverpool's 2-3 goals better than Newcastle, and you walk away with just a 1-goal win, a late winner, or something like that. So, I haven't drunk the Kool-Aid just based on one result. There were some positives to take from it. The other positive, I think, or the thing to think about, Newcastle, I think, has 4 draws out of 5. So they've hit a little bit of malaise after they were really the talk of the town, the first half of the season. They just kept climbing the table. When are they going to drop points? It looks like never. Well, the last 5 games, 4 draws in 5 games, that's fine. So I think that helps a little bit as well. And then I don't know the details. I just know what I've seen and read specifically that because they've been injury free, they've been able to field a very consistent 11, 12, first, starting players, and then kind of a standard rotation as you go through the game. So they've been able to script it very well based on their personnel, which is fantastic. A couple injuries now, maybe that mixes things up a little bit, a little bump in their form, and who knows. One thing to look at is in the last match week, Liverpool earned 66 more points than Newcastle did. So, just in 1 week alone. So that's a positive. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, there is some positive, and I think really, and I was talking about this on the Monday podcast after the game, and I know I'm like a huge Henderson guy, but I felt like Henderson's presence is what helps Mo a lot, because Henderson's the kind of guy that gives him the ball a lot earlier as opposed to waiting till the end, force it to him. Now Mo has 2 guys on him and stuff like that. I feel like Henderson releases the ball a lot earlier,
which
kind of helps the cause, because Henderson is going to be like, "Wait, here, you run with the ball," which helps a lot because that gives a lot more space for Mo to do something with the ball as opposed to Henderson pushing up with the ball, giving him in the last second, which is what we see with, like sometimes with like Thiago and stuff like that too. It's just like, well, it's too late now. You just like basically handing me the ball. So right. I feel like that's why I hope Henderson gets to play and be able to play with the same energy again. I think that's what we have to see now is, can Fab and Hendo do that after, what is that, like 5 days rest? And if they can do that, I feel like we do have a shot. But the whole goal thing, because, how much credit, stock do you put on that clean sheets, Alex? Because, well, A, the goal came from a ball that hit the post, and B, Everton has only scored 16 goals in 22 games.
Yeah.
The way we've been giving up goals this season, I'll take a clean sheet any way we can. I thought, other than that corner, which that is a talking point, probably our corners have not been great in the past couple weeks without Virgil van Dijk, but I think that will do wonders for us moving forward. Especially, I mean, we looked pretty. I would say we looked pretty decent defensively against Everton. I thought Fabinho looked actually really good with Henderson to his right, and I think he's more comfortable with Henderson playing with him, and I think he just plays better. But I think, I think Matip and Gomez, they had kind of a shaky start, but they looked a lot better throughout the match. I mean, Everton wasn't really attacking that much, but they still look good. Joe put in some good tackles, some good challenges. So did Matip. But I think that will definitely help us going into the weekend, just getting that clean sheet.
So we're going to do the pre-match tomorrow, right before the game, once the lineups come out, so we can kind of talk about the lineups and see what we can project. But an early prediction from you, Michael, for tomorrow's game.
I think it's certainly 3 points are capable. I think if we do get 3 points, I think it'll tendency to be ugly. I don't believe this team will be consistent until they show some consistency. So I think that a lot of the fluid, dynamic things that we saw on Monday, I feel like we'll be wanting them on let's say the match is tomorrow. It's Saturday, right? Yeah, it's not Saturday match. Yeah. So I feel we'll want that. I could see an ugly, 2-1 win. I don't have that confidence. I considering their position in the table, how consistent Newcastle has been all year. They don't concede a lot. I just did a quick look back here in their last 8 games. They've had 5 clean sheets and given up just 1 goal. They've not given up more than 1 goal in a match in over 2 months. So, I think 1-1, if I had to make a prediction, I think 1-1, and we'll immediately start second guessing things again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm going to kind of watch this one more like, well, let's see if it's for real. Because honestly, like the last couple of games, it's been like, let's see what we get, kind of watching.
Right.
This one is going to be more like, let's see if we can really get something going. And I think that's why it's a very important game, because if you stumble again, I think you're like, okay, you know what? This is how the season is going to be. It is what it is. Let's see if we can pull off something in the Champions League, because when there's like, one game to focus on. If we do win, then you're like, wait a second, maybe they're back. And then we'll wait for the game after that to see if we're going to get crushed or not.
Yeah, I agree.
Alex, quick prediction from you for tomorrow.
Like I said earlier, 2-1 Liverpool. I think I think it'll be an ugly win. Probably, most likely. I think it's going to be some stoppage time goal again for Liverpool to take all 3 points home.
I mean, hey, I'll take the 3 points. I'd rather not wait till the last goddamn second or give me a heart attack, but I'll take the 3 points whichever way we can get. But we'll talk about it, like I say, a lot tomorrow, right before the game, once the lineup comes up. I don't know if you guys want to hop on that show. We'll see you guys then, because I think there's a lot of unknowns with that lineup. Like, I don't know, based on all these guys that came back, the amount of practice they had, how they responded and stuff like that. Is Van Dijk going to be out there? And this is the first time in a long time Klopp has to make some decisions for the front three, especially, which he has not had. It was more like, do I play a guy who's a midfielder winger, or do I just play all the attackers we have and see what happens? I think he has decisions to make now with Jota and Bobby being able to play. So we'll see how he goes. I don't know if he sticks with the same lineup as Everton and stick with what works. It's odd that the only guaranteed jersey is probably Basetic in midfield right now, aside from that guy, and like Ali in goal. That's kind of like an oddball thing. But thanks a lot, gentlemen, and thanks to all those listening, sharing. We'll see you guys tomorrow right before the game, usually about like a half an hour or so, because we want to make sure the lineups are right and all that kind of good stuff. So we'll see you guys then. Have a great weekend. Up the Reds.
All right. See you guys.